10 Techniques for Always Being Right. Gregor Gysi is one of Germany's strongest rhetoricians, and probably Germany's best rhetorician. He is always right in the end, even when he is not. Being right and having it right are two completely different things, as Arthur Schopenhauer said in his masterpiece, The Art of Being Right. Everyone has been in a situation where they were right, but others just wouldn't be convinced. The following 10 rhetorical tricks by Gregor Gysi will help you to assert yourself. 1. Double bind.
Either you are also a socialist nutcase or the anti-globalization movement around the left was already right back then.
The first rhetorical trick that Gregor Gysi uses is the so-called double bind. Schopenhauer also describes this as the exclusive offer of extreme opposites. You offer your opponent two opposites. You are right, because they are two extreme things, where none of the alternatives is really satisfying. No matter which option the person now chooses, he doesn't come off very well. So you are very easily right with a so-called double bind, like Gregor Gysi. Number 2. The I'm right mindset.
What do you think? What else I would have liked to tell you? All right.
Of course, Gregor Gysi is not always right. For example, when his speaking time has expired, he insists here that he is still allowed to speak. Of course, objectively, he is wrong, because he is actually breaking the rules. Gysi, however, sees himself in the right, because he has the right mindset for it. I am right. And if you have this mindset, you show that you are worthy of continuing to speak. You show self-confidence and self-determination. This gives your stand a social dynamic, and others are much more likely to accept your opinion. Number 3. Running gag, you are always right. The president of the Bundestag answered,
It will comfort some colleagues that we make it up bilaterally.
He sees it here with humor and accepts out of this social dynamic that Gysi still has something valuable to say. Because of the running gag? Of course, with a certain wink. But even if this assumption is accepted in humor, it gives Gysi the basis for going to the next level with the running gag. Yes, a one-on-one conversation is good, of course, but then the others, they don't get all that. That would be very, very inefficient. This rhetorical technique makes people internalize more and more often that Gregor Gysi is right. And even when he's not right, people tell him linguistically that he is. And that's a very, very strong achievement. Number 4. Thought experiment.
If you really sell the federal highway, then I'll tell you what happens. Then I'll try to buy the street where you live. And then it will be very expensive for you if you want to go home. Besides, I'll then rename the street and it will be an embarrassment for you to always have to write that you live at Gysi number 1.
Here Gysi uses the thought experiment. This rhetorical technique is about taking the wishes and thoughts of others to the extreme. And he performs them in such a way that the future will be extremely good for all of us, where the opposite will happen. It will be very expensive for the public. And after going into what that would mean for everyone, and what pain that would cause, he then goes intensively into the counterpart. Yes, these rules, they could be abused like that. That could happen. That's plausible. After that, it creates this, yes, shameful and very emotional image, whereby many will say, you're right. Through this particular form of thought experiment by Gregor Gysi, you ensure that most will say, I don't want that. Most will agree with you. Number 5. Professional personal counter. The 5th rhetorical technique of Gregor Gysi is especially important when others try to expose you.
Mr. Colleague. You could start with the interesting one, then you would have the necessary time. I don't know, Mr. President, whether you are entitled to such an assessment. But I'll just take it as it is.
The indirect statement is, that what you are saying here, Mr. Gysi, is not particularly exciting. And when something like that happens among many people, and especially with no good friends of yours, then it is important that you react to it. You can use exactly this pattern of Gregor Gysi here. So first of all, a response on a professional level, or on a relationship level. In this example here, we have the first one. You are supposed to remain objective and are not authorized to do so. This statement now lays a foundation, and basically you are not allowed to interfere now. In this way, he is first of all right in terms of content, even if this may not feel particularly good emotionally. And then he also reaffirms his perspective. This is very important. Stand by yourself. Stand by the fact that your opinion is valuable. Stand by the fact that you are right, and you will stand much more confidently in such situations. Number 6. Generalize with proof to the contrary. A citizen once reproached him.
Everyone is responsible for his own life. I believe that to take away the responsibility, of course you are responsible for yourself. Of course you are responsible for your family. By the way, if you get into trouble you need the help of others. If you get social care, it doesn't pay itself off.
The 6th technique is a classic technique according to Arthur Schopenhauer. The more general the example becomes, the easier it is to refute it. And if you say things like Gregor Gysi, they see it too narrowly, and then you make the definition bigger. Then, it becomes much easier for you to refute the statement of others. Number 7. The enlargement of the problem.
The responsibility goes much further. I want to tell you this directly. If we don't feel responsible for the third world, they will come to us. Do you want to shoot them all? What are you going to do when they get here?
The 7th rhetorical technique is to magnify the problem. You take the problem that others are giving you and make it into a bigger problem than it really is. So it's a much bigger problem than they said it was, and then you present that much bigger problem as almost apocalyptic, and then you play the ball back. What solution do they have? For when the zombie apocalypse comes? Then others usually don't have a good answer, and so you end up being right. Number 8. No one has to move.
It always goes like this. In which African country can we give which German company an order from our money, the development aid? So it flows back to us.
The 8th rhetorical technique of Grogor Gysi through which you are right is, make sure that others agree with you without having to deviate from their position. He cares a lot about what happens in Germany. Germany is his top priority, and if you recognize the goals and values of other people, and then say, we are bound by treaty and this is already going on in the best way. Germany is already benefiting from this to the maximum, then the other person doesn't need to deviate from his position. He can still continue to think what he thinks, and will still agree with him. Number 9. Anticipating counterarguments.
Then someone wrote to me. Yes, but if we didn't have them, we would have more money for swimming pools and for schools. And I said, really? Did we have more money for swimming pools and for schools when we had fewer refugees? He answered no.
Gysi doesn't wait for others to counterarguments. Instead, he shows through a personal story, a personal anecdote, that he's an expert. That he's asked himself this question many times. And he shows others that what they're planning doesn't change anything. And as soon as others realize, okay, what I'm planning has no value, then they're more likely to listen to you, because you're the expert now, you have the overview. And you probably also have solutions. Last. Number 10. Position reframing.
Do you know what the illusion is? You are looking to the side. That is the wrong view. If you want to change something, if you want to create more social justice, we must finally look upwards.
The 10th rhetorical technique is position reframing. The man's original opinion was that he was only responsible for himself. He was losing money. And now Grogor Gysi is reinforcing this emotion. Yes, that's unfair. And he defines the word justice differently than the man. Through such powerful rhetoric, you manage to get someone to be in favor of the social system on the first day and against it on the second. And he doesn't even have to change his opinion. That's the power of Grogor Gysi's rhetoric. The better your rhetoric, the more likely it is that others will always agree with you. And to make it easier for you, I recommend the 2 powerful rhetoric masterpieces. First, The Art of Being Right by Arthur Schopenhauer. Second, The Quick and Easy Way to Effective Speaking by Dale Carnegie. These 2 books will help you to make your conversations easier from now on. I've put the links to them in the description. I hope you enjoyed this video and it helps you to be more right in the future. If so, give us a thumbs up and post your experience so far in the comments. This will help us make even more informative videos for you. Until next time, at MindSword.